My name is Vianna Isbister. I am a student at East Tennessee State University, and I'm working on finishing up my master's in communication and storytelling studies. My project is titled Writing Myself into Existence, Writing, Polyamory, and Writing about Polyamory. My handwriting was a piece of art. I was 8 and I was in the 3rd grade, and my only focus was to make sure that every single letter that I wrote had the appropriate squiggly line, the appropriate amount of dash and period, and that my cursive was gorgeous. I had to present my notebook when I finished writing my essay to my dad, and he would have to look it over and give me feedback on my writing. And I'd been working very, very hard on my handwriting. And I worked and I worked and I worked in what felt like hours on the 2-paragraph essay that I had to have written by the end of the day. I was so excited. I sat at my little desk and I wrote out every single word. It was beautiful. And I went so painstakingly slow. Every word mine. Every single word on that page was my word that I put in my handwriting. And when I was done, I leapt up from my desk, grabbing my little spiral-bound notebook that had the pink butterfly on the front of it, because that was the 3rd grade notebook. And I walked over to his corner of the office. And he looked at my paper quizzically. And he frowned. And he pulled out a red pen from somewhere that I didn't see. And he started to cross out all of these words on the page. So many of my beautiful words he crossed out. And then over top of the line that he crossed on the page, he wrote his own words. He would rewrite and correct and adjust and manipulate my words until they looked nothing like mine. They were not my words anymore, they were his. And he said his were correct. He handed me back my notebook and told me to go rewrite things the proper way. I was 20, and I was just beginning to feel that the world was exciting again. Derek had a mullet and said he was a feminist and wanted a partner who loved communication. I was sold. He said that he loved and aimed to embody security and stability. That was not something that I had grown up being accustomed to feeling very comfortable with. And I saw Derek as a part of the piece of the puzzle to the life I thought I always wanted. I wanted to be an artist, and I wanted to be an academic. And somehow they were just going to fuse together, and I would have a full performance career and a full academic career, and it would just happen. But in order for that to happen, I needed support. I always thought that eventually I'd settle down and have a family, and he seemed like the kind of person that wanted that with me. But I hate to tell you that all of those things are really, really perfect until one of those core beliefs and identity categories that you hold true to yourself, this magical dream person, doesn't believe in that. I told him I was polyamorous really early on. He was 7 years older than me and just kind of dismissed it. Oh, yeah, of course, whatever. And I allowed that to slip under the radar for quite a long time. And we messaged back and forth for what felt like forever. We met at work, and then we took our relationship online. We really hadn't been talking that long, but it felt like forever because there's so much overlap. And he knew I was poly, but he would often refer to my non-monogamous interests as cucking. And I would correct him. But it didn't feel like he really saw me. And the equal parts of spontaneity and stability that he presented to me barred none. And it was so easy to forget. I felt like I had so much to tell him all of the time. Like I had a constant stream of thoughts and words accessible at my fingertips to go on to the text. And the banter would float from my head onto the screen of whatever messaging app we would use. And it was just one thing. He just wasn't okay with one thing. And that was until August of 2019. It had only been a few weeks, really. He sent me a message that said he would never be okay with me being with another person. That he was telling me so I would never bring it up. The conversation was unprompted and reluctantly welcomed because I did not feel like I had much of a choice. I was later told that he was drinking heavily when he sent it to me. And I thought I had to be okay with that. It was only two things, right? The later conversation. Derek. If you get feelings for another guy, it's time for you to break up with me. If you find someone attractive, not a big deal. Say it, don't say it, I'm not concerned. Emotional and physical infidelity is just what I require. When I received that text message, I was reeling. And I, in my 20-year-old brain, sent back a message that I look back now, 4 years later, and I see how much compassion and acceptance of his position that I had. I didn't agree with him, but I didn't want to fight him. He said, I'm sorry, I'm just scared. You've already had such an impact on me. You could ruin me if you wanted. You could break my heart. Let's wait until later. I will work on being better for later. I come to talking about polyamory for a lot of reasons. I wrote this autoethnography to write me over the hump that is my thesis. I found in the midst of writing and poring over all of the words that I felt like I had nothing to say. But I had lots to say, but nothing that could get written down on paper. Writing feels like the worst kind of punishment for me. Writing is torture in that my opinion and thoughts are cemented to a page. Those words and thoughts represent my entire feeling. And if I don't get it down on the page, it wasn't how I really felt. No matter how many times I revised it, it never would truly match because all I'd ever see is that red pen going over and over and over. And as I started writing this autoethnography, I found a lot of connections to my polyamorous life. So many times people would try and take a red pen through my identity categories and cross it out and write over top what they wanted me to be. I was in that relationship for 2 years before I found my way out. And as I poured over the research of both writing and academics and polyamory, I started to find a lot of overlaps in those two narratives in my everyday life. So why? Why this topic now? What am I looking to do with this paper? I'm looking to fill a gap. I'm looking to fill the gap between this idea that living your life while being in the midst of research, we all know is hard. But what does that mean when that actually impedes you from writing because writing has been taken away from you? In this autoethnography, I use my experiences of writing, being polyamorous, and writing about polyamory to express to express the details and small moments of how identity and expression of self are connected and in conflict when they are silenced. Through this critical inquiry, I hope to write myself into a space where I can write my thesis, break through the complex levels of intersectionality present in the overlapping narratives. In addition to this already present struggle to write, the additional complication of polyamory has made my thesis feel overwhelming. I write this to find my space. Through an examination of stigmatized communication, I seek to create a space to talk about the elephant in the room, writing while experiencing life, and bringing awareness to the growing need for finding more routes to measurability of one to be an academic rather than just being judged by the ability to be prolific. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to hearing your questions. This project is very close to my heart, and I have to tell you now that I have written my thesis since finishing this paper, and I look forward to making some edits to the paper before sending it out for publication with all of these details in mind, because the autoethnography deeply influenced my thesis. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to chatting.